Welcome everyone to our ReSourceYYC Lunch and Learn. So that you are aware, ReSourceYYC is a co-working community geared to professionals. We offer our Lunch and Learn sessions as a means for our community to network and provide meaningful learning opportunities. We also provide private office spaces, dedicated desks, day drop-ins, and virtual office options. If you're not yet a member with us, we encourage you to check out our website and follow us on social media. Links will be posted in the chat. Today, we have Shawna Quigley, who is a business and sales coach, as well as a sales trainer. Shawna is a true expert in her field. She has trained hundreds of sales professionals. Over to you, Shawna.
Well, thank you for that great introduction, Rosemary. And I just want to say throughout this, if there's some screenshots you want to grab, there will be a bit of a summary document and a few other things that I'll offer at the end. But feel free to take some snapshots of some of the content because it may be a good learning tool for you. The one thing I want to bring up about me as a salesperson or sales coach, one of the things I really focus in on, and that's what you'll see in any sort of training that I do, is really about professional competencies. So helping you to have the real skills and abilities to operate, whether it's business to consumer, business to business, but it's really founded in competencies. So you know what that does. And I'm a firm believer that when you do that, the key thing that comes forward is that real opportunity for you to come through authentically in yourself and have confidence in your sale presentations and your processes. So with that, our topic today is sell more by avoiding 5 common mistakes. Now, these are common mistakes that I have seen thousands and thousands of times with some of the most professional salespeople, people who are highly skilled, highly trained. And they're things that if we're not conscious about them, we'll lapse into them. And if you haven't had the training, then you probably aren't even aware that you're doing them. So that's sort of my gift and incentive to you, that when you follow these things and think about these things, you will sell more. You'll sell more profitably. You'll probably be able to increase the scope of the work that you do. You'll negotiate for better prices, bigger contracts, and ongoing contracts. Does that sound good?
So shaking babies and kissing hands isn't a good thing, right?
No, not generally. And particularly in this day and age, you know, you might get more arrested than actually.
All right. Darn, that's what I was doing wrong this whole time.
Yeah, well, Chris, we're working on that for you. So here's a little question. I would like this to be engaging, so that I'm going to be posing questions throughout, okay? So the first question I would like you to think about, and I'm going to provide some context. So just yell out number 1, number 2, whatever. So what is your comfort level in handling a first customer meeting? So this is the first time, maybe it's a prospect, it's the first time you're meeting this customer. All right, and here's your options. 1, I do everything to avoid them. Number 2, I'm uncomfortable. I constantly get mixed results. Number 3, I'm comfortable. I win some, I lose some. And 4, bring it on. I live for these appointments. So where would you be? Chris went 4. How about everybody else?
I'm a 4.
You're a 4. Carrie's a 4. Stacy's a 3. And I can't see everybody, so somebody might have to yell out some numbers. Anybody else? Or putting in the chat? Rosemary, if people put it in the chat, if you can just let me know.
Got Stacy at a 3 and Moses at a 2.
It's Moise.
Moise, sorry.
Hi, Moise.
Hi, Shawna.
All right. So 2 to 3, there's a couple 4, so you guys are, you know, pretty confident in your process. I'm willing to bet that if you implement the things that we talk about, you'll be getting much more closer to the number 4. That's my hope. That's my intention as a salesperson and a sales trainer.
Used cars.
Yes. So
haven't seen that movie in forever.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing.
Chris, don't you have that jacket?
Chris, I think you were asked if you had that jacket.
Oh, I don't have that jacket, unfortunately. No. No.
So here's the thing. Sadly, there's a legacy of mistrust with salespeople people automatically go, oh, it's a shifty profession. And to actually say the word profession, people disagree. It's like, oh, no, 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 no. It is a huge career. It's a huge profession that I strongly believe in. And for many people who are in that, and there's hundreds of thousands of people who are in professional sales, there's also arguably every single one of you, even if you don't think of yourselves in sales, you're having conversations that are influential 80% of your time. So you are engaging in sales. So here's the thing. We have this legacy of mistrust. You can see that they're pretty old cars. So you're probably going, things have improved. Sadly, statistically, still 3% of buyers distrust your sellers, 3%. So 97% of the time, they're sitting back and they're like, I don't really trust you. So knowing that mindset is not to get you discouraged, but it is really starting to demonstrate how you need to show up. All right. So this is me. This is me about a year and a half ago. Use your imagination. I was sitting at Starbucks. I was having a meeting with a business owner. I had researched this business. I had decided I really wanted to use them. And so I had had a conversation with them previously. They had forwarded me information and we were coming and we were engaging in this conversation. It was really in my mindset, okay, I've read all the material. I know that I'm going to go ahead with you. Let's just have a conversation about those questions and take it to the next step. Now, in this particular situation, I was not the seller. I was actually the buyer. Okay. I arrive at Starbucks. We sit down. This is my expectation of the meeting. The person who shows up warmly says, hi, how are you doing? Would you like a coffee? Great. And then starts in, Shawna, what are your pain points in your business? And I said, well, this is one of the reasons that I'm looking at this particular product that you offer. And he went, great. Pulled out his laptop, turned it to face me and said, I know we have 20 minutes. I'd like to keep to that. And I just have a presentation for us to go through. I said, great. And in my head, I'm kind of thinking, this is the same presentation that you sent me. Like you sent me reams of information that I committed to going through it. I did go through it. I have some questions. And again, I'm ready to go to the sale. There's just a few clarified questions. What he did is spent the next 10 to 15 minutes walking me through a 25-page PowerPoint on his screen, engaging, looking at the screen, and going through reams of features and benefits and page after page. And I kept interrupting as politely as I could. And I said, great, can you tell me more about this? This particular part isn't that interesting. What I'm interested in is this. And he forwarded to that part of the presentation and again, engaged with the computer screen and read off all of the points and then continued on where he was at the point. So that 20 minutes turned into 30 minutes. And I'm wondering, I'm not going to tell you the outcome of that question. I'm wondering, have you ever experienced a similar customer meeting where you have been the customer? Yes, no?
Yep.
So those of you who experienced it, and I'm venturing 100% of you had, what were you thinking or feeling? And again, feel free to either put it in the chat, Rosemary will watch, or just vocalize it. Take your mute off. Go ahead, Carrie. Oh, can't hear you.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, you might just
Okay.
have to stay closer to the.
That's what it is. I'm sitting way too far away. I'm always thinking like this person doesn't have an interest in what I actually need or where we're at in this, doesn't have a clue where we're at in the sales process. By this time, they should have known that I've gone through all of the information. Like in your case, they should have known that you'd gone through the information and kind of felt out where you needed to be in the sales process.
Yes,
And went with
excellent.
that.
Yeah, so you're thinking and feeling like, wow, I kind of wasted my time. What else? Feel free to speak up. This is to be engaging.
We've got a yes from Helen, and she says they don't understand me or my needs. And Elaine
Yeah.
also says she's experienced this as well.
Yeah. Remember that slide 2 times ago, that pushy salesperson, that classic whatever? That just kind of breeds. If you're feeling that way, that's just continuing to breed that feeling of distrust, right? Would you have
Sales-
bought from them?
I wouldn't have. As a salesperson, when I'm going to see somebody, it makes it harder because you kind of judge people a little bit more, I guess. And I'm thinking that, especially in your case there, the person was just going off a template and doesn't really understand business. Like, we all have that same training, but we customize it to ourselves. And if they're still going off of those first few steps and following that exactly like that and not finding out what you need, then they're not competent enough to have my business.
Wow. Yes. Thank you, Carrie. What else?
Elaine says, before I found my voice, I might have, but not anymore.
Love it. Way to go, Elaine. All right. Wow. Powerful question. Would you refer them? You come across somebody who really has a need for their service. Would you refer them? Chris, you're kind of, yes, no, no.
No way.
Fairly definitive there. We wouldn't.
Waste of time.
And so what would you have done differently? Carrie started to talk about that. When you think about that scenario, what do you think you would have done differently if you were the person selling to me in that situation?
Listen to what you were saying, what you were asking.
Mm-hmm.
Meet you where you are, not where I am.
Excellent. Yeah. You know, one of the most powerful questions they could have said was not, what are your pain points? But you've reviewed I sent you that information. What questions do you have out of that? What are the things that were really compelling? You initiated the conversation with me. So what is it that you found that was of interest? Why are you interested in this particular service? And then build on that, right? So you guys are great. Heck, you don't even need to be in this. This is going to be just a refresher for some of you, I think. All right, so now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. I promised you 5 things that are things that if you continue to do them and do them well, it will rapidly and significantly improve your selling process. So here, starting number 1, didn't do the homework. So this is one of the top mistakes people don't do. They didn't do their homework. So what kind of homework do you think that I'm meeting a prospect? Should
My dog ate it.
You delegated. Okay. Well,
No, my dog ate it. My dog ate
it. Okay. All right. So here's the thing, especially in the social world, there's so much access to information. So you want to do your homework. You want to make sure that you're figuring out and anticipating what some of the things that are going to come up. You're going to prepare the appropriate questions that you're going to ask. You're going to start to think about what might be unique to them. And here's a great thing that you can use. It's called the 3x3 method. So what you want to do is you want to learn 3 things about the industry. So if you're in the financial services industry, what are some of the current events? Things that are changing, cryptocurrency, things like that. So, and it's really easy. Just go on to Mr. Google and go, what are emerging trends in this particular industry? All right. So learn 3 things about the industry. Number 2, learn 3 things about the company that you're going to be seeing. How big are they? What kind of business are they in? Review their website. What are their values and priorities? What kind of services do they offer? What kind of products do they sell? things like that. So kind of ground yourself in that. And particularly, you know, the websites are such great resources right now. What are the blogs that they're putting out? The person. Again, social media. Who is this person? Are they, you know, have they been in this company for a long time? Are they new in the role? Maybe they just got promoted. But a great opportunity. Knowing these types of things can help you very quickly to understand, again, what kind of questions are going to be of interest, what kind of activities and things that you might be able to talk about that will be compelling to them for you to for them to purchase your products. So the person. So I mentioned one place that you can find this information out. I guess essentially I said two things. So where would you find this information besides their website? Feel free to just speak it out.
Social media.
Social media, yeah. Sorry. Where else? Perhaps you did business with them before. So you might review your CRM. For those of you who are in larger companies, maybe you talked to the salesperson who was before you. What kind of business did they do? Maybe industry contacts that you have, some friends. Maybe someone gave you a warm introduction into this person. So you can go and talk to them. What kind of things are really compelling to them? What kind of things are of interest? I used to work in consumer packaged goods, which is, you know, last company I worked was Campbell's Soup. So I would actually go into the stores back in the early days when I was calling on sales reps or on the stores. And I would walk through and I would see, what are they doing in the store? What kind of merchandising are they doing? What kind of sales are they doing? Those types of things. Gathering that information gives me a really good understanding of who they are and what's going to be meaningful to them. It is a starting point and a starting point to create great conversations. So we talked about social media, we talked about websites, we talked about preliminary CRMs, it might be case studies, it might be blogs, it might be you've connected with this person and look at the types of things that they're posting on their website. Maybe they're posting some new announcements about mergers. All of these types of things is really important to get a sense of this. Now, as somebody who can be a bit of a research junkie and can go down that rabbit hole, limit yourself to 30 minutes. Set a timer. Just intentionally set that I am going to just look for 3 things that are going to be kind of important. And they're going to be about the industry, the company, and the person. And I'm going to set my timer. And then when that 30 minutes is up, that's it. I have to move on. All right. Is there anything new in that is inspiring? Have you thought of that? Have you ever done this kind of work before? Carrie shaking her head. Anybody else? I can't see everybody's screen, so if you're all shaking your head, I can't really comment. All right. Are you ready for the number 2 thing? All right. Ooh, look at this one. Mistake number 2. Using a canned sales presentation. I talked about that, didn't I? I gave you an example of that, and you guys were pretty much, not such a good thing, right? But I'm going to challenge you here. So you guys, I think, are really have a great foundation of this. Let's build on that. So the first thing you want to do, you guys nailed this. You want to make sure it's aligned to the unique needs of the customer that you're meeting. So what is it that they need? Where are they at? What kind of information have you gathered that starts to spark? They would probably need these types of things. These would be key priorities. Some of that industry knowledge that you're going to get is a great way to start some conversations. I understand, working with some of my other clients who are in this particular industry or sector, that this is an ongoing problem for you. Is this a challenge for you as well, right? So you're going to really, I'm going a little bit ahead, but I just want to plant that seed. You're really trying to understand and get to a point where immediately you're starting to build rapport and have really effective conversations. Number 2, you want to keep it simple and memorable. No 25-page PowerPoint deck, please. And please don't be presenting it, by engaging with the computer and not me. right? At best, if you're making an actual proposal, you don't, most of it is you're gauging here, and you actually create the proposal after you've gathered all the information, and it's 5 pages. Okay, but that's a whole other training course. So if you're interested, you can contact me and I'll give you a little more insight into that. But keep it simple, keep it memorable, focused on what it is their needs. And you want to make sure that you're talking about the unique value that you bring. Okay, so you're probably going, I think I'm doing that, but let's do a little exercise here to sort of see that. So, oh, look at that. It's a nice red SUV. I'm sure if you've ever read any of those beautiful brochures that they have, they go pages and pages of all these features and benefits. Okay, if I'm a soccer mom, so think about a soccer mom, and I'm going to be buying an SUV. And again, please disengage your mute and talk to me. What kind of things are going to be important to you in buying the SUV?
Probably safety features and then room in the trunk and the back seat.
Yeah, convenience kinds of things. I'm probably
Maximum.
Sorry?
I was going to say maximum number of people that you can carry in there for carpooling.
Yeah, absolutely. How easy is it to get, you're probably not going to want a sports coupe, right? You want those 4 doors, something, movable seats, perhaps, the ability to take some seats out so that, this soccer mom is going up to some sort of tournament. And so she needs some more storage room, right? Maybe it's a automatic lift gate, right? So you see that there's, some specific things that they're really interested in. Probably isn't the motor size, right? Maybe it's some fuel efficiency, but it's probably not, a 350 motor and this amount of power and this amount of torque. All right. So what if you're an off-road enthusiast? So what kinds of things are going to be important to him or her?
They probably want like full 4-wheel drive, or like how tough is like the undercarriage? Can it take like the damage going through like the hills and stuff like that, I guess?
Yeah. It's all about terrain and off-roading, traction. I don't want to get, have you seen those commercials of the SUV that's going up the snow mountain? You want to make sure that you're going to be able to come down and come down safely, right?
Elaine also says towing capacity.
Towing capacity, absolutely. So it's interesting. We're talking about the same vehicle, and yet 2 very distinctly different priorities for individuals. So I hope that when you're thinking about this, you'll remember that and go, okay, an SUV is not just an SUV. It is what it does for them. And people buy for the needs that they have, and making sure that you're talking about it. So if I'm making a presentation, I'm at the dealership and I'm selling to the soccer mom, I'm probably going to lose her if I'm just talking about, well, this is great off-roading, it has towing capacity, it has this size of engine. Okay, the thing is, when you present things like this, here's one of the real dangers. People tune out. And secondly, when you start to provide a whole bunch of different options that people haven't thought about, they might have thought, I'm ready to make that sale or that purchase. But all of a sudden now it's like, oh, I didn't think about whether I need it to have a hitch or its towing capacity. Oh, maybe, you know what? Maybe I need to go back and think about these things. So now you're at the risk of adding a whole bunch of other things that people start to filter out and go, I was ready to make a sale, but now I'm not. Now I need to think about it. And so you're really at the risk of losing them.
Moise thinks he should be a car sales guy.
A car sales guy. Okay, great. Yeah, well, you certainly nailed the off-road enthusiast, Moise. All right. Mistake number 3. And I have to say, you guys aren't, you're not, you've already learned this. You're not talking too much. I have to pull it out of you guys. So here's mistake number 3, talking too much. And I have to say, I have well lost, not that I actually probably counted, but I'm sure I have heard tens of thousands of presentations by now. And as I said, even the most experienced salespeople fall into this. Often, if I was to record it and come back, because I do a lot of role playing with people, and I'll say, so what percentage do you think that you spoke? And they're like, oh, I don't know, maybe 20, 30%. And I will say to them, would it surprise you to know that you did 80% of the talking or 90% of the talking? People aren't aware, right? So how do we avoid that? So the first thing we do is we come prepared. Remember that number 1, prepare your homework. Out of that homework comes your preparation of 10 really great questions. Not necessarily what's your pain point. That's pretty tired, that's pretty old, and it really does not demonstrate that you have an understanding of what that person needs. So come with 10 really great questions. And here's what I'd really like you to think about. Really focus them on being open-ended questions. Be careful not to ask questions that they can say yes or no. And then have some of those questions that actually dig deeper onto those. And a great question is, tell me more about that. Or if that was fixed, what might that look like? What would success look like? So you get them talking about it. And what that does is that really brings through and helps them to really, both you understand their needs better, so you can come to a better solution, but it also really helps them to now have an understanding about what is really important to them. They might have been thinking they're buying an SUV, but as you sort of go, oh, okay, so cargo space is really important to you. What else might be really important? And it gets them thinking about it. So they get really clear about what their needs are, and you're really diagnosing so that you can provide the right solution. Number 2, get them talking at least 50%. Again, not engaging in that PowerPoint presentation. You're asking questions and you're really getting them to talk. You want them to do most of the talking.
Elaine says she agrees. He's totally, he has to watch herself. Passion brings on yapping.
Yes, yes. So here's where that preparation comes in, right? Is you have those questions and you just continue to try and engage them. And the passion really comes out in, as they're responding, it's like, that's interesting. Can you tell me some more about that? How might that change? You're really building rapport, you're creating better solutions, and they're certainly feeling heard and understood. Listen with the intention of understanding, not to sell. This is a big one. This is a really big one. Coming from my background, whenever we'd launch a new product, we would be given a binder that would be 3 inches, and there would be probably 25 pages of Q&A. If somebody asks you this question, or this is the objection, and we would have to memorize those, and we would role play those out. But here's what you want to do. You want to be listening to them and really pay attention, because you want to understand what their needs are. And here's the challenge with that. So many of us are listening with, oh, that's the cue for me to bring in why this feature is important. Oh, I got it. Now I can close them because article number 657 says this, you can close when they say this, right? Please curb that enthusiasm to get there and just really tone out, quiet that mind, and just really try and understand, not to sell. Then once you're really clear about what their needs are, you don't go running in and say, okay, here's your solution. You first make sure you confirm understanding and prioritize their needs. So what I heard in that was a lift gate was really important. Ability to have storage space, really important. Movable seats and having, you know, passenger seats for 8. That was really important. How important was, you know, it might be color. Or how important is it, you know, a V8 engine versus V6? Would you maybe be towing? Because you did say you guys go camping, right? So you're summarizing back what you heard. And then you go, can you prioritize those? Because sometimes it isn't within the budget to provide 100%. So of that, what's the most important? The lift gate, well, that's a nice to have, but that could drop off if that takes me to the next level. All right, and then, okay, I understand. So this particular vehicle comes in these, it has these particular criteria as the representation of the solution. So I just want you to get that in for a moment, and I would love some feedback. Anything new in this, or some new learning, or some insight, or hell yeah, Shawna, this is old school. I get this. This, you know, I thought you were going to teach me something today.
It's refreshing to hear this, and I just wish that more salespeople thought this way.
Wow, thank you, Helen. So when you think about that, it's like, wow. Remember that statistic? 97% of the people don't trust you. And Helen just gave, you know, this is refreshing. I wish more people thought this way. So if you implement that, what might be those results?
Shawna, one of the things that you mentioned was understanding what success looks like for the customer. And I think that that's really important. And it takes all of these steps to do that, because I know I've caught myself a lot of times where I think I know what the successful story is. And once I ask all these questions and get to the bottom of things, I was way off base. So I think that that's one of the key things that people can take away from this mistake for sure.
Yes, thank you, Carrie. That's a really great insight. And as much as I've had training, as much as I teach, and as much as I have sold, hell yeah, I fall into this. I have to be really conscious about that. It can be very easy for me to just make an assumption and jump through. And it's like, okay, yeah, I've seen that. So I know how this story ends. It's like going to the end of the movie and telling, you know, giving them a summary. But be careful and curb that. Even if it means you're smiling, but you're biting your tongue and just going, okay, just try and, you know, listen and not just advance to the end of the movie. Okay. So Carrie mentioned one really great question, that what does success look like? Do you guys have any favorite questions that you like to come to meetings with?
Past experiences?
Tell me more about that, Chris.
If they've used similar services to what we offer before, what was their experience with the last company?
Great. Yeah, a really great question to build on that is, you've used other suppliers. What is it that you liked about them? So we want to be careful that we're not negative about others, but if we can say, what was it that you really liked about them? Because that gives you that opportunity to go deeper. Okay, now I'm understanding more about what success looks like, what their expectations are. And so you're setting that as, you know, kind of a checklist. I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. And for those of us who are fairly competitive, it's like, I'll do it so much better, you know, right? So it's creating kind of that list. Anybody else have a favorite question they'd like to share?
Depending on the situation, sometimes I'll ask, what is your reasoning for looking for another supplier? And I mean, that goes off of what Christopher said, but sometimes the reasoning is completely different than what you think as well.
Yes, yes. Very important question. Very important question.
Elaine shared, what do you need? What can I do for you? And what was missing in your last experience?
Love those questions. Yes. Yes. The one thing, I think it was the second question, what can I do for you? You might need to preface that, or maybe it's further down in the conversation. I have had the experience, especially if they're new to me, if this is sort of a prospecting call, if they don't have enough understanding about what you do or how you're unique, then that question is like, I can't answer that. I don't have enough information. So sometimes you might need to preface that a little bit around that, but great questions. Thank you. Anybody else? All right, mistake number 4. Not customizing your presentation. So this is whether it's a verbal presentation you're making, or it's actually a PowerPoint, or or it might be a video today, it might be through your webinar, it might be a virtual presentation. This is so important. This is where you really separate yourself from the quality of other people. First of all, you're going to use the research that you've collected for better questions. I understand, working with other clients in this particular industry, that this is a major concern. Are you experiencing those? Congratulations. I see that you guys have just expanded. You've purchased another company and you're moving into this. How is that going? Right? So you're making sure that you're taking all that research, that 30 minutes that you invested before, and now this is where it produces that gold. You're really planting that seeds. So use that research. In doing that, you're really demonstrating understanding of the customer's problems and how you can solve them. And how you have potentially, you could bring in a case study here or tell them a story about how you've done that in a similar situation before. And by the way, the more that you can use more storytelling, the more impactful that will be. People resonate with that and they remember that much better. Helpful little hint. Include any data that you have that's relevant and meaningful to them. Again, think back to that SUV. If I'm that soccer mom, I don't really care about its off-roading capability. So keep that as, that's a nice to have, that's an appendix, that's in your brochure. And Carrie said this earlier, be appropriate for the current engagement and the decision influencer that you're meeting with. So if this isn't a prospecting meeting, it's the first time in, there's lots of selling cycles that take 8 months, year and a half, and you're meeting with different people through there. There's different purposes for each of those meetings. So make sure that the presentation is appropriate for that current engagement and appropriate for the person that you're talking to. If you're talking to the CEO, or you're talking to the financial officer, or you're talking to the purchaser, each of them have a very different lens that they're going to be looking at your offer. Understand what's important to them. Perhaps you're actually, the person you're talking to is actually the user, the person who's in charge of the project management of whatever it is that you're doing, but they don't actually have decision-making authority. Again, your conversation, your presentation is going to be dedicated to them as the user. What is it that they know? How do they make use of this material? What kinds of longer term types of processes, things that go into it. So again, please don't walk them through a generic presentation. I'll leave it at that because I think I've been beating that horse a little bit. So anybody have any comments on this slide before I go on? All right. Mistake number 5. Huge. I think that I've seen some statistics through HubSpot that it's, 50 to 80% of the time. people don't ask and secure the next logical step. And here's what I want you to think about. There are a lot of things that is a next logical step. In some cases, you're asking for the order. It's a one and done type of thing. It's a transaction. Sometimes it's requiring to submit a proposal. Maybe it's an RFP. Might be, oh, who else do I need to talk to? So in that case, you've met perhaps with the purchasing department, and they said, you know what? There's some different specs about this that I'm not sure would work with our person who's on the front lines. So maybe you should have a conversation with them and help me to understand whether that part or that component will work with it. Or you need to actually talk to our buying department and understand what that buying process is. There's certain things you need to get on a preferred vendors list, whatever. All right. So there's lots of things in that next logical step. It might even be booking a demo or a trial or a tour of the facility. So there's a lot, but it's really important to say, all right, where do we go from here? Are you ready to purchase? There's any number of different things, but you have to ask for that step. Here's the thing, so many people don't. And it's almost a letdown. You've had these great conversations, your buyer's really engaged. Oh, I'm ready to go. And they don't ask. And then they're left to going, okay, am I missing something? Am I supposed to do something? Oh, now I have to take responsibility of saying, well, can you send that to me in an email? Now I'll think about it. So it's really important. You need to ask for that. And that's where some of the real gold again comes out. Then you find out maybe there's some objections that haven't been handled. Maybe there's some processes that didn't come out in the discovery set. Because they might go, well, our company policy is we have to interview 3 different companies. Okay, where are you? Well, thank you. I'm so excited that I'm one of the 3. Have I answered all your questions? Is there anything else? Is there somebody else I need to talk to? Well, I need to present this to someone. Wonderful. Is there, would you like me to set up that appointment to talk to that person? Or would you like me to send you a video of this particular product in action so that you can present it to your user? So again, it's really helping to clarify if there's objections not understood or not met, and what that process is to set up the expectation. Anybody have a comment on this chart or this slide?
Shawna, when you said that when somebody is saying that they need to present it to somebody else, do you have something that, because oftentimes I'll go in and if that happens, then that person is kind of like a gatekeeper and they don't want you to come into that meeting and they want to present it themselves. So do you have any suggestions on how to get across around that?
Well, there's a number of them. Hopefully, when you get to that part, you've already created quite a trust and rapport and relationship and started to demonstrate the value, not just of your product, but the value that you bring to that conversation. And if they say, well, I need to talk about to the user, it's like, great. Is there any, would you like me to be part of that conversation? And you'll sense very quickly about that. But as much as you want to control it, it's like, let me send you a video. Let me just, let me send a couple things that I think are really important to that individual. And I'll email that to you so that you can, have that conversation. So you're at least continuing to try and manage that relationship and have some control. Yes, there will be times that it's like, no, that's fine. I will take it forward. Then the next question you want to ask them, all part of this is, when can I follow up? You're taking that. When are you having that conversation? When can I follow up with you? When will you be finished interviewing those people? What's the deadline for the RFP? All right. So getting really clear about that. And part of that too is you got to do, it's not mistake number 6, just a helpful hint. You got to do what you've committed to doing. So if you said, I will have that to you tomorrow, You have to have it to them tomorrow. Always ask the question, when do they need it by? We have a tendency to go, oh, I'll just get that to you tomorrow. But they may not be presenting that for another week or 6 weeks. So don't put yourself under unrealistic expectations, and make sure that you're delivering to what their needs are. All right.
And we've got a comment from Elaine who says, in sales, we typically forget to ask for or state deadlines or timeframes that we are going to follow up or contact. So
Yes, absolutely.
another reiteration of the same.
Yeah, and you know what? Not only do we forget to ask that, but the buyers also forget to tell us some of the timelines. So that's another really of those 10 powerful questions. When does what does that success look like? When is that project going forward? Is there something in there? So if it's an industrial product or component that's going in, who needs to see this? When does that happen? When will when do you do conversions of that equipment that this would be relevant to? And when you have that information, then you're following up accordingly. Here's the other thing. You're also reminding them, hey, Helen, you told me that that this is switching over at May 1st. Just to let you know that this component needs 4 weeks to be ordered, because it's a special order for you. So I would need you for it to be produced and to be delivered into your warehouse so that it's ready for that installation. I need you to order that by April 1st. Okay. And you're going to put in a follow-up note to remind people that. All right, summary. So here's your 5 most common mistakes on the left. And here's your quick little summary of how to avoid making them. The 3x3 research method, being unique as the customer, get them talking, great questions, listening, confirm, sell the benefits of solutions, not a feature. Does everybody understand the difference between a feature and a benefit? Anybody want to give me their definition of what a feature is? So a feature is really a description. It's the tailgate. It's the thing, the lift gate. That's a feature. People don't buy features, they buy the benefit. So they buy what it does for them. So always be really cautious that if you are talking about feature, always end that sentence with the benefit to you is this, or some version of that. Okay.
Elaine says feature aspect of the product and benefit what it does for them.
Exactly. And here's the thing. I'm just throwing in lots of extras, little tidbits. You could have the same feature and they're, depending on the audience that you're talking to, there could be 4 or 5 different benefits that are relevant to them. When I work with clients, I will often say, put your features down here and then go across. What are the benefits specific to certain audiences that you have? Because they will be unique. Again, everybody is a little bit different. So making sure that you're tailoring your research, your understanding of their needs to them and the stage and of the selling process. And again, ask and follow up on the next logical step. All right. Anybody have any questions? You guys are so quiet. I don't hear anything. Wow, I must have answered every one of your questions. Congratulations to me. What was one big takeaway for you today? Was there anything that you sat through this, you give me the gift of your time for an hour? I hope that I've given you some gifts. So if you could share with me, what is something that you're walking away that was a benefit to you?
For me, it was your tip number 5 or number 5th mistake in, not securing the next step. So sometimes it's just stating the obvious.
Yes, thank you for bringing that forth, Stacey. It's amazing as somebody who gets the privilege of watching role plays.
Mhm.
I will ask somebody if they, if they ask for the order and they went, oh yeah. Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
No, you said, this is my solution. What do you think? Maybe. And that was it. And I can also share with you, I have done some role plays that were part of exams. And I can't actually mark them unless they actually say, ask for the order. And so I've sat there and I'm like, and it hurts. It's actually hurting me to not go, ask for your order. You did such an amazing presentation. Ask for the order. And I'm sitting there going, it's very uncomfortable as well for the buyer. So, because you could be leaving them with the impression of, yeah, this great conversation, but you know what? Now you're not interested in my business. So, anybody else?
Well, we've got Carrie saying great reminders on these that we sometimes forget as the years go by. And Elaine said great information, simple and basic concepts that work, but they're easy to forget. We fall into old habits sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's almost like having a checklist, right? That you sort of put there. One of the other things that I teach about is the actual sales call itself. There's a process. And when you fall out of that process, when you miss a step, that often you can trace back and go, oh, I forgot to ask that question about when are they implementing this, right? So very, very important. Anybody else?
I thought it was a helpful reminder to ask them when they need something, when they need a proposal or an estimate or whatever, because I tend to try to commit to something right away, and I'll make the time if I commit to it, but this is refreshing too, to think, oh, well, if I ask them, they might say next week instead of tomorrow. So that was a helpful takeaway
Great.
for
Thanks
me.
for sharing that, Helen, because I can tell you, I have coached so many people, and the natural thing is they're so high on the opportunity. I'll get that proposal to you tomorrow. And you know what? If you have the time, create the proposal and then sit back and look at it from the, and just double check it. Like there's nothing stopping you from doing the work, but now you have the gift of time. Well, maybe I need to, maybe pull some more information or do something. So it's, the flip side of that is also, I have had so many clients who come to me and it's all about productivity. I am so stressed. I'm running around with my head cut off and, I'm never getting the work done. I have to work 90 hours a week. And it's like, okay, have you ever asked, and they go, well, I should just get it to them in 24 hours. Well, they may not be looking at it, and it actually may not be a good selling feature to them because now they've forgotten it, whereas it might be a great reminder a week from now. All right.
Right.
Now that's not, go ahead, Chris.
Sorry. Yeah, it's the biggest one that I got and that I was thinking about is the follow-up. Sometimes I'll do quotes and I'll send out those quotes. And if I hear from people right away, great. But the problem is sometimes I don't have time to follow it up just because of current lack of resources. So I would like to get better at that, but I need to expand. The other way I got around was for follow-ups for certain things. I send out emails the very next day that are automatic for follow-ups. The problem is I would always love to call people to go over that, but I don't have time to do that. That's the major one. But yeah, I know that there's a bunch of projects that have fallen through because it's like you ran out of time, or you couldn't follow up fast enough because you got distracted by the 20 other phone calls are coming in, or well, you're already booked up for the month. You lose a project. What's one project or two projects here and there if you're already booked up? So.
Yes, for sure. And that is one of the dangers when you don't follow up appropriately. Is there's a lot of statistics out there in terms of the success rate around that. And if you can put together some sort of really strong process around that, and again, incorporate that learning that you learned. So having a automatic follow-up is great. Maybe in your CRM, there's some things that you can tick off that go, you know, here were a couple of key things that were really important to them. So when you send them, it doesn't feel like a canned automatic email, but it's again demonstrating that really I saw you, I heard you, and I understood. All right. All right, so here's some offers I have for you. You guys, you know, there are a number of really good questions. You can Google and find them. There is a really good infographic at this website, Brandon Guile. It's the 100 best sales questions. It's actually in an infographic. Have a look at that, but feel free to Google some great questions, and there will be different questions. We talked about that depending on where you are. If it's a prospecting call, if it's a sales call, you're further along in there. So take advantage of the resources that are available to you. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find some great questions and then just modify them and tweak them for you. Number 2, I have a sales evaluation tool. It's a paper tool. That's kind of the image of that there, that you can go through, and it will help you to identify what are some areas potentially that are some gaps for you. I'm happy to send that to you. Just send me an email, Shawna@quigleycoaching.com. I will send that over to you. My third offer to you is I'm really passionate about sales. Remember I said that I'm all about competency and wanting to make sure that you can sell yourself authentically and be successful. My gift to you is, if you would like, set up a 30-minute meeting and we can just do a role play and I can give you some feedback around that. Lastly, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm very connected with a lot of sales resources, so I'm constantly putting in different things like that. So through that, you might get some good information to continue your sales career. I hope that you enjoyed your time and that you felt that the investment of this 1 hour was worth your very valuable time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. It was my pleasure.
Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well.
Thank you very much, Shawna. That was a great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. It was fun.